Okay, let me just wait until I get a confirmation that people can hear us. All right. So if you guys can let us know when you hear us, we will know you guys can hear us loud and clear, and then we'll get started. Okay. So, okay, we got a signal that says that everyone's on loud and clear.
All right.
So let me see. Hey, we also have a special guest with us right now too. We also have the crypto edutainment channel on with us right there, right? So hello, you'll be joining us. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, guys. What's up, guys? This is Tai Zen, and with me today we have the Honorable Grandmaster, legendary, world-renowned LeonFu.com with us. Say hello, Leon.
Hello, guys. Good to be back again.
And the Chuck Norris of crypto, and an all-around good guy. Right? So where are you casting from today, bro?
Hey, doing some videos on this Labor Day. Why are we working this weekend?
This is fun. This going to the moon is fun, man. So where are you at, in North Austin right now?
I'm still in North Austin. So
okay,
Austin, Texas.
Okay, so I'm broadcasting from North Dallas right now. So in this episode today, guys, many of you guys know that when we first started this channel back in 2013, we talked about a lot of different ICOs. And this year, we've been really busy trading and investing, and we've just been busy taking profits.
Yeah.
So we haven't had a lot of time to talk about a lot of new ICOs that's coming out. But recently, and also there's so many, we get flooded with like over a dozen ICOs every day contacting us to talk about them. So it takes a lot of effort for us to talk about an ICO now, because it's so difficult to tell which ones are bullshit and which ones are not bullshit.
Yeah, there's simply too many of them right now.
Yeah. They're just like, we put a FAQ on our channel, cryptocurrency.market, cryptocurrency.market, so that if somebody is serious, they'll go there and look at the FAQ number 3 and look at our ICO guidelines, and then they'll, if they respond to it in that manner, then we'll consider looking at it. If not, then we just don't even bother with it, because it just lets us know that they're not that serious. Because if they did, I mean, why would you contact someone, a channel, to review your ICO if you don't even take the time to see what the channel's even about? So the fact that if they don't read our ICO guidelines, then we just don't even waste time with it. The ICO that we're talking about today is called Rivetz. Okay. And before we talk about it, we got to go through all the disclaimers and disclosures. You know,
we do this every time.
Yeah, and
we always get asked every time people ask us. Yeah,
we always get asked if we invest in the ICOs that we talk about, and we always say the same answer. You always assume, it's always safe to assume that either myself or Leon or both of us or someone on our team or everyone on our team are invested in the ICOs that we discuss. Like, we are not going to waste time talking about a cryptocurrency and doing all the research before you guys hear us even talk about it. We've already spent several weeks doing research on it. So we're not going to waste time talking about something that we have no interest in, okay? And then people always ask also if it's safe to assume, guys, that we invest in the ICOs that we discuss. And it's also safe to assume that the ICOs that we talk about, right, may or may not sponsor our channel to do research, okay? So just be aware of that so that you guys don't say that, oh, you guys are talking about this because they paid you guys to talk about it, okay? That's not true. There's people every day that offer to pay us to talk about their cryptocurrency, and we don't do it. And we are in a good position to where we are financially independent, and we don't need somebody else's money in order to live or pay bills and stuff, because we make our money from cryptocurrency trading and investing. So it gives us the ability to talk and be neutral about the projects that we talk about. For example, right, we were offered flight, hotels, accommodations, and everything by the Dash community to come out to London to the Dash conference. They offered to pay for our hotels, flights, everything. And what did we do, Leon?
Well, we accepted their invitation.
But we did not accept their money.
Their offer, their hotel or flight. We're going to pay for the trip to London ourselves. But we are looking forward to going to the Dash conference. Yes. Yeah,
and the reason why it's going to probably cost our team about a minimum of $5,000 just to fly over there and do for you and David, and to go over there and check out the Dash conference and see what they're about, possibly interview the founder and everything. And that's our own dime, guys. Nobody paid us to do that. And we chose not to accept Dash's offer to sponsor us to go there, simply because we wanted to be able to go there and interview them and say whatever we want without being censored by them, or they get unhappy because we said this or that about them. Okay, so we would rather just go do it with our own money. And then that way, whatever we say about them, we say whatever we want. So that's something that you guys need to be aware of. Okay, so that's the what do you call it? Fortune or the luck that we have to have done well in cryptocurrency investing, where we don't have to rely on taking money from the coins to say what they want to say. We can say whatever we want to say because we're paying for our own trips. Okay, so all right, so it's safe to assume that the cryptos we talk about, we are likely investing into it, and they sponsor a channel in some way or another. Okay, so let's talk about how we found out about Rivetz, because this was an interesting project. It's been around since what, 2014?
Yeah, for 2014, somewhere around there.
So let me just talk about a few things that got our attention about this project before we dig into it, okay? First of all, most of the ICOs nowadays don't have any working software, and it's just so hard to talk about a project that's raising $50 or $100 million, and they have nothing but a piece of paper that has a wish list on there, okay? So it's been really difficult for me and Leon to talk about an ICO that has credibility or validity. And this one, we introduced to it because you go to the Bitcoin meetups in Austin quite a bit. And the people that run the meetup down there is David Johnson, the chairman of Factum. That's where they do the Bitcoin meetups at their office. And that's how Leon found out about Rivetz from David Johnson. And that's how we looked into it. And we found out that it was a working software, you know, and they've been working on it since 2014, and that the founder of Rivetz is Steven Sprague, and he used to be the CEO of a publicly traded company in America that was listed on the NASDAQ exchange. Okay, so just a few of those things right there, a public CEO on a publicly traded company in America. So that lets us know that this guy is going to understand securities laws and understand how the laws work in America. And the fact that he's running a public company for over a decade lets us know that he has an idea of how to do business in America, okay? And then the fact that they have working software, if a project has working software, that gets our attention really quick, okay? Yeah. Now we don't have to figure out, are they actually gonna build the software with the money that they took from the investors, but are they actually gonna build it? And this Rivetz already has it, okay? Anything else you want to add to that about how we found out about Rivetz?
Yeah. So David Johnson from Factum, his specialty are these kinds of base layer protocol type projects. You know, Factum is one of these kinds of projects. He was also involved in Mastercoin, now known as Omni. He was also, you know, that I believe that is the very first ICO.
Yeah.
Is Mastercoin, which is still around today. It's known as Omni. They rebranded themselves. But they held an ICO back in 2012, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. I don't know of any ICO that was before that. But back then, no one was calling it ICO. The term was pre-mine.
Yeah.
Right, that was the term people were using back in 2012 about the scheme, and many people were not happy with that, which is why Counterparty exists today. That Counterparty is basically a copy and paste of a fork off of Mastercoin at the time, but they did, instead of doing the ICO, they simply burnt the Bitcoins. And to this day, you can go see how many Bitcoins were burnt to issue Mastercoins, right? So that was something that David Johnson was also involved in, and so he continues this thing. Rivetz fits in that same category of these base level.
So we always talk about, you know, what the cryptocurrencies, what bucket they fall in.
Yeah.
You know, like Particle, like Zcash, like Monero, they all fall in the privacy coin bucket.
Yeah.
Like Steemit,
this is going to be in like the infrastructure type play. So you know, I would call things like Factum, things like
Stratus.
Stratus. Things, any kind of project where you build other things on top of it, right? That it doesn't really, there's not really a product on its own, but it's one of the infrastructure pieces of the computing stack that other things are built on top of it, right? I mean, software is built very much like a house, right? Somebody has to dig the foundation, and then somebody then has to build the frame, and then the roof goes on top of that, and then the walls go on the frame, right? So you can think of there's an analogy between developing software and building houses or building, you know, skyscrapers, right? There's layers that need to be done down here, and then you build other things on top of it, right?
Okay, so, hey Leon. So just I want to jump in right there real quick, right? So if we're talking about software, a cryptocurrency software project, and comparing it to building a house or a building. Let's talk about how before someone can build something on a piece of empty land, there has to be highways that go out.
That's right.
Out to
infrastructure.
Yeah. And then there has to be utility lines like gas, sewage, water lines, fiber optic lines that go to that area before they even build a house or building there.
That's right. That's
right. The people who build those highways, those roads, the fiber optic, lay down the fiber optic cables, the sewage lines, and the gas lines, the water lines, and all that. Those are those projects responsible for building that is what you refer to as the infrastructure.
Yes.
So you basically what you're saying is like Factum, Stratus, Rivetz. These are infrastructure.
Yeah, I would even call Ethereum as one of them, right? Because other projects are then built on top of it. Anything where it's a critical piece, IPFS. You know, the blockchain space and this whole decentralized movement, a lot of the infrastructure has not been built out yet, or is not built out to the state where it needs to be. And so that's what many of these projects are going, that's what's happening with many of these projects. And that's one of the opportunities that we have as investors, is investing in these infrastructure plays, right? So, I'm good friends with David Johnson. I go to the meetup. I mean, their headquarters is here in Austin, right off Mopac, and I go to the meetup, and so I hang out with him on a regular basis. So he's very focused into these kinds of projects. That's just kind of where he is his focus of where his focus is these kinds of projects. So that's how we found out about it. That's how we started looking into it. And for Rivetz, it's focused on security. It's focused on authentication, right? You know, you've gone over this as how do we authenticate who we are, right? You can go ahead. How is that? You can unmute yourself. Yeah, you're on mute.
So basically, okay, so now that we finished talking about how we found out about Rivetz, let's talk about what it is, the problem it's trying to solve, right? So now we transition to what it's trying to solve. So according to Andreas Antonopoulos, you know, the top Bitcoin evangelist out there, he says that there's 3 ways that you can authenticate a human being. The first way is by what you know, such as a password in your head, and by who you are, such as the fingerprints or your retina scan. And then the third thing is by what you have. So what you know, what you are, or what you have.
Yes.
So 3.
Yeah.
And so which one of those is, or combination of those is Rivetz?
Okay, so today, most security and authentication is based on what you know, right? Something that you know. Your mother's maiden name, your phone number, a password, a username, okay? And that has a lot of problems because you have to keep those things secret. And, you know, if somebody else finds out, right, just because you know something, there's nothing really to prevent someone else from knowing the same thing. And if they know the same thing, then they can, as far as the computer is concerned, they are you, right? If they have your username and password, or if they know who your mother's maiden name is, if they know your phone number, or they can take control of your phone number, then they can essentially, you know, I mean, these are not people, these are machines. As far as the machine's concerned, if you know all those things, it is you, right? So one of the other ways you can validate is what you have, right? Something that you own, such as a YubiKey, such as a Trezor, or a Ledger, you know, one of these hardware wallets, right? Those have moved security to something that you have, right? It's a special device that it's like a physical thing that you have. And, you know, many times people, a 2-factor authentication is often trying to combine these two, right? Like you have to know a username and password, and then you have to have a phone that you then type in some random 6-digit number or 4-digit number that keeps changing every 30 seconds, right? So they're trying to combine something that you own. Now the problem with that, the problem with, say, Google Authenticator is really still something that you own, because what it's actually having is a random seed, right? A random seed, and then random numbers are derived from that. And every 30 seconds, you get a different random number. But the problem with that is it's still something you know, because it's a seed that automatically generates. It's something like an HD wallet, right? Where every time you use a Bitcoin address, a new one's generated for you. Well, it's on the same concept, like it's a seed, and then an infinite series of random numbers are generated from that. So if you can compromise the seed, if the hacker somehow figures out what the seed is, it's still not really something that you have. It's something that is derived from something you know, right? So that's why that's not really, it's better because it's on a different hardware device where that seed is stored, but it's still something that you know. So Rivetz, something like, let's go over something that people have seen is like a YubiKey, right? That is something that you have because that uses encryption to sign a message that authenticates that you actually have that device. It's a little USB stick, right, that you plug into your computer. And the way that works is a website says, hey, I really want to make sure that you have that YubiKey, or you have that Trezor. Like a Trezor or a Ledger Nano S can do the same thing. It's called UTF, Universal Two-Factor Authentication. And that website says, hey, use your private key and sign this message for me, some random message that then proves that you actually have that key, right? And so that's proof by actually owning something you have, because no other device has that private key. Even the website that's trying to authenticate you doesn't know what that is, right? So you create a signature to prove that you actually have that device. So that's, but the problem with that is that's another device that you have to carry, right? So Rivetz is trying to move authentication and security from something that you know to something that you have, right? And
they're targeting the cell phones, correct?
They're targeting the cell phones. Yes,
initially they're targeting the cell phone because that's something that almost everybody has.
Yes, yes. So when somebody authenticates something, right? You know that authentication must have come from that cell phone or that computer. It could not have come from any other computer, right? So it's trying to move the authentication off from something that say a username and password that can get hacked, right? Because they can either hack your computer or they can socially engineer you and somehow get the password. We've had that happen to some of our coaching clients where a hacker came in and basically socially engineered them and tricked them into giving up their password, right? It's not as hard as it sounds, really. There's many ways to do that, from tricking them or threatening them or somebody like that to give up their password, right? So we have, and Rivetz is trying to move that onto the hardware itself, because all phones today, or not all phones, well, phones that are, say, newer than 3 or 4 years old, have this thing called a trusted execution environment, where there is a place on the phone that is controlled by the hardware that's outside of the control of the operating system of the phone, right? It's this little...
Okay, so when you say that's outside the phone, right? You mute your microphone.
Yeah,
when you say outside the phone, right? Are you talking about, like, I use a Samsung S7 Active here because I like it, because when you drop it, it doesn't mess up the phone, right? So are you saying that there's a device in here called a trusted execution environment? Is it a computer chip?
It's a chip. Yes.
Is it a piece of plastic in there? What is in there?
Hardware. Yeah, it's a piece of a specially designed chip that can execute instructions independently of the operating system. It can keep secrets, secrets in terms of data, right? That even the operating system of that phone, in your case Android, or in my case iOS, that the operating system itself doesn't know about, right? So you can put things like your fingerprint or your credit card numbers or your passwords even inside this chip, and it's secured from even the operating system of the phone, say Android, can't even get to that data.
Okay, so this area of your phone called this trusted execution environment, right? The first question, like when you explain that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, who put that in there? Who put that chip in there? Is it the
Samsung did it, Apple did it, everybody? That chip today is on all cell phones. It's part of the chipset of the cell phone these days. Which is why Rivetz is trying to do this today. And it's similar to what Steven was trying to do, say, in his previous company, Wave Systems, where they were trying to sell the chips. But now, because all late model cell phones, whether they're iOS or Android, have this chip inside, that they all have this trusted execution environment. And what it's being used for today are things like your fingerprint sensor. You can unlock your phone with your fingerprint. So the data of your fingerprint is stored there. It's also being used for Apple Pay or Android Pay. Like now you can even pay, use your credit card and buy stuff with your phone. Well, that is also, that data, like your credit card numbers, that's also stored in this part of the chip, that it's secured from even the operating system itself. Even the operating system that usually has access to everything everything on the phone, but this part of the phone, this trusted execution environment, even it does not have access to it. So that's what he's trying to use.
So basically, this sensitive, this trusted execution environment inside your phone or your laptop or your computer, it's designed to store sensitive information or secure information.
Security. It's supposed to secure information even from the operating system itself.
Okay, so that means that
even if you compromised it, even if you hacked Android, okay, you still couldn't get to this because it's separated. It's a physically hardware that is an area of the hardware that even the operating system can't get to it.
Okay, so when you say that, right, who can access that trusted execution environment?
Okay, so you have to, in order to access that, this is something that Dave Johnson said, is you have to get permission from the hardware manufacturer themselves to get access to this.
So basically, in our discussion last time with David Johnson, he said that Steven Sprague, the founder of Rivetz, has gotten permission from Intel, the chip manufacturer Intel, to be able to access that trusted execution environment, right?
Yeah.
That means that he had to go through a lengthy security process, I would take, or some certification process to be able to have security clearance to access that part of it.
And that's not uncommon. Like even Apple does this for apps, right? Like Apple has complete control over their app store. Assuming you didn't jailbreak your phone, nothing on your phone is allowed to run unless Apple gave it permission to run. Okay, so when you download an app from the App Store, and Google could be the same way. If you download something from the Play Store, it can't run unless Apple gave it permission, like by creating a signature, by signing off on it with their private keys. The operating system is built so that it won't run anything unless it sees a signature from Apple or from Google, right? And so this is the same thing. This is a trusted execution. It won't run unless Intel signs off on it, and then it can run, and then it will allow the software to run, right? So that's why it's trusted. It's not trustless. It's trusted because it's a chipset that only software that was approved by the hardware manufacturer of that chip can actually run. So that's why a hacker can't just go in and change it, right? Because if they did that, the computer, this TEE, trusted execution environment, just won't run it, because by hardware it's designed not to do that unless it sees a signature.
Okay, so basically what the audience needs to understand is that people can't, random softwares just can't access that trusted execution environment, right? Unless they've been approved by the chip manufacturer or the hardware manufacturer, okay? So now that we understand what this trusted execution environment is in our phones and in our computers, right? Now, how does that relate to cryptocurrencies, and how does that relate to Bitcoin? Or what's Rivetz trying to do with that?
Let's just make sure, like something that's very sensitive, such as your credit card. Like I use Apple Pay all the time. Apple Pay is you can pay with your phone. They want to make sure that when you use your credit card to pay with Apple Pay, it only came from your phone. It could not have come from any other phone, right? It has to be that phone, right? If you want to use this credit card, it must have come from this phone, and not any other phone. Nobody can take a different phone and pay with your credit card, or spoof you, pretend that I'm you, and then use a different phone and pay using your credit card. So how does this relate to us? Well, for the first time, in cryptocurrencies, we are constantly having to worry about hackers, right? And so Stephen and David are saying that, you know, instead of having security in the network, we're moving security from something you know to something that you have, right? So something like a private key, right, is something that you know, right? If you have the private key to a coin, you can take that person's coin, right? So what we want to do is move some secrets, such as a private key, such as your password, such as your credit cards, into a protected area that's actually hardware protected. It's protected on a hardware level so that only that particular device can actually create can actually sign off on a transaction. And so this way, a hacker can't just break into your computer. Well, even if they did hack into your computer, the computer itself doesn't have access to those secrets, right? I mean, you can authenticate that, for example, that the computer it will only run and it will only sign a transaction if it's in a physical location or if it's that computer. You can put a whole bunch of criteria around transaction.
Let's hit the pause button real quick here, okay? So what you're telling me is that the way that Rivetz is designed, right, according to your understanding of what David Johnson and what Steven Sprague said, right, explained it, is that right now, if I store my coins on my phone, for example, right, the private key is on my phone. I mean, I have a PIN, I have a fingerprint access to open and access this phone and everything. But what you're saying is that somebody in China or in Russia can hack into my phone, and they can, if they get access to the private key on my phone, then they can transfer the cryptocurrencies out of my phone. And what you're saying is that if we use that trusted execution environment that Rivetz proposes to do, right, then that means that the hacker has to have my physical phone in their hand in order to hack.
Yes, that's the idea. The idea is you can put all kinds of conditions, like it has to be from that phone, and that phone has to be, within your house, for example. Like if that phone leaves your house in Dallas, you can't send the coins, right? So the possibility, it's programmable. They're creating a platform, and a platform where you can run, you can put conditions on the hardware. So we're moving the security from like software, which is all these things like protecting your passwords, protecting your private key, right? Off of having people to secure their data, because most people are not technical enough to secure data. And in the case of exchanges, perhaps it's even impossible to physically protect data. That's why all these exchanges keep getting hacked, right? So but people are generally very good at securing physical things, right? If I told you, say, hey, here's 10 ounce, here's a gold bar, and I want you to secure it, most people have an idea of how to do that, right? But most people do not have an idea of how to protect data, especially data that's connected to the internet.
So what you're telling me is that, based on your understanding what Stephen and David Johnson said, is that if the hacker needs to have my phone in their physical possession to be able to hack into my private key, then that means that if the exchanges use Rivetz to secure their customers and clients' private keys, that means that they would make it extremely difficult for the hackers to hack into the exchange accounts, because the hackers would have to have access to the exchange computers. Because the exchanges are being hacked, is that they're getting hacked from overseas from a hacker that is not physically there. They're just entering their exchange and then trying to hack it from there. So you're saying that with Rivetz, it prevents them from doing that because they have to be physically there next to the computer in order to do that.
That's the idea. That's the idea.
And that would be very hard, because if you're trying to steal Bitcoins from, let's say, Bitfinex or Kraken or Coinbase, and you have to be inside their headquarters, inside their IT room, they're going to have a bunch of security guys there, and they're going to notice that you're out of place.
Yeah, exactly. And okay. That's not how exchanges get hacked today, right? Except the only hack that I remember where it was they got hacked with Shapeshift, and that was because it was an inside job, right? They hired a guy and then he stole from them basically. But most of the hacks that we see today is not because the hacker broke in through the internet, right? They broke through and then were able to compromise using, we don't need to get into how it's just too technical how they did it.
So now that we explained to the audience how we learned about Rivetz and what it does and how it secures your private keys by using hardware instead of software, right? This is a cryptocurrency investing channel, right? So, right? So how do we need to look at it from an investor's perspective? Like, how do you see it?
Okay, so if Rivetz can get we just did a boot camp in LA, and we spent, I would say, a third to half the time talking about security. That was one of the major things, and we went through all the different things that at least the best practices that we have today about how you don't lose your coins, right? I mean, we spent many hours talking about that. So Rivetz is trying to simplify that, right? Rivetz is trying to make it so that instead of having everybody remember their username and password, instead of everybody having to protect their private keys with something they know, like their password, which everybody forgets, that you can actually move security to the device level rather than having security on the network, right? You're trying to authenticate by asking different kinds of questions, which is very hard for a human being to remember, especially over the long run, especially over years. Like, are you going to remember a secure password 5 years from now? Probably not. You're not going to remember it, right? But it's easier for us as humans to secure physical things, right? Like, I can put something in my safe. I can tell somebody else. You can also tell someone else to. We can even do things like making sure that you have your fingerprint by integrating biometrics. That's something that's possible. So it makes money because if it becomes widely adopted, if people start, if assets like coins and exchanges can have more security, then that makes the asset more valuable, right? Because assets that you can easily lose won't be as valuable as assets that you can easily secure. Right? So how does that make us money? Well, obviously, if Rivetz, or it doesn't have to be Rivetz, if any project gets widely adopted because it offers some value, and in this case, the value that Rivetz is trying to provide is security, a better security solution than we have today, then that will be extremely valuable, right? Because if it becomes standard practice that this is how you secure your coins, right? Using software that was, say, built on the Rivetz platform, then that platform will become extremely valuable. So that's how we can make that. That's the opportunity that we have here, is to see if we can actually have a standardized way to secure data in computers. Not just data that you have to get approved by the hardware manufacturers such as Intel, but every developer can have access to a platform where they can secure sensitive information, such as passwords, such as private keys to coins. Yeah.
Okay, so this is they are currently running their ICO right now, and I think that it's supposed to end like in a week on September 10th, something like that. Okay, so let's look at the, do you want to go over their valuation?
So let's go through the valuation. Okay, so I'm looking at the Rivetz website right now, and if you
just real quick, if you're watching this video, if you go to rivetzintl.com, you can follow along this video, and I'll put a link in the description.
Okay, so can you still hear me, Ty? You muted yourself, but okay. Let me go through.
I said I'll put the link in the chat box, so that it's to it. Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's go through what the valuation is on an ICO, and we'll do this this is how I actually analyze ICOs. Okay. So we scroll down and we see that there's 200 million Rivetz tokens that will be fixed, right? So 200 million supply. They're going to sell 70 million. They're going to reserve 60 million for marketing and incentive, for the community. But out of the 60 million, 30 million will be available now, and 30 million in the future. And then the other 70 million, 10 million is available now, and they have a smart contract that will release 20 million in a year, 2 years, and 3 years, okay? So the first thing we have to know when we calculate a valuation is what is the supply of the coins, right? 200 million, but out of the 200 million, let's add them up, right? 70 million that's gonna be sold, 30 million out of the 60 million, 30 million is available right now. 30 million won't come on the market for a year. So there's 100 million, and 70 million is reserved for future use. 10 million is available now, so that now we're up to 110 million, all right? So 110 million is the supply right now, right? And then the other 90 million is going to be released over in the future, right? Remember, in investing, we always think about, like, we always discount the future, right? In other words, if there's going to be 110 million today and then 90 million 1, 2, and 3 years out in the future, then what is the supply? What does that discount back to? Well, let's just put that aside for now, because that I don't want to get too technical or into too much math. In the first year, there will be, let's just talk about the valuation in the first year, right? Because $110 million is going to be the float for the first year, right? So I'm going to use 110 million, which is the supply that we have now for the first year. And the price that they're paying is 0.003. Each Rivetz is going to be sold for 0.003 ethers. And of course, there's going to be bonuses depending on when you invest, right? Many of these ICOs are using a discount rate, right? If you invest earlier, you get a bonus, or you get a discount than if you invest later. Okay, but this is capped. This is a fixed price sale, and if any of the 70 million that isn't sold will go back to the company. Okay, so it's not that it doesn't it's not distributed. So they're gonna sell 70 million at a fixed price of 0.003. If it does not sell out, then the balance will simply go back to the company. Now, I don't know if the unsold Rivetz will be locked up, or if they're available immediately. I don't know that, but I'm just going to assume that they're going to sell out because every ICO has most of the ICOs that we've looked at have sold out within minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that they're for the purposes of calculating the valuation, I'm just going to assume that they will sell all their tokens. So if we take the 70 million, if we take the 110 million, and you pay 0.003 ethers for them, right? So you take 0.003, and then you multiply what is the price of ethers today. I'm assuming if you had US dollars and you go out and buy a bunch of ethers to invest in Rivetz, every ether, so you take the 0.003 multiplied by the 322, you're 99.6 cents is what I get. So you're paying about $1 per ether, $1 per Rivetz, excuse me. The valuation in the first year is 110 million, okay? So that's the price that it is. It's coming out. They're asking for $110 million valuation, and that's what we are. You know, you should then discount that by the price the discount rate. I think there's like a 20% discount, and then going down to a 10% discount. You can find that information, but then you just discount that back to the price you paid. Now, I'm assuming $1 per ether if you paid $332 per ether, which is right now, I'm looking at CoinMarketCap, that's the current price of ether, 333. So obviously, if you paid less or more for those ethers, you're going to pay more or less for the Rivetz too, because it's being priced in ethers. So at $1 a Rivetz, the valuation is coming in at roughly 110 million and change, right? We should discount the future. Like what you're paying today is 110 million. So I guess what our audience wants to know is that a good price? Is 110 million a good price for an ICO for this project? And my personal opinion is it's a little bit rich, to be honest. You know, if you got a discount, then it's a little bit better, right? It's a lot higher than, say, what we pay for Particle. Remember, we went through the same exercise when we did the Particle. But on the other hand, the entire market is higher, right? I mean, since the beginning of the year, all the ICOs are. If Rivetz went to an ICO last year, I don't think they would have gotten 110 million. They probably would have been getting somewhere between 5 and 15 million. You know, 5 on the low end, 15 on the high end. Now they're asking for 110 million, and it seems like they're getting it, right? They've raised over 50,000 ethers at the time right now, as I'm looking at this. So yeah, right now it says contribution status over 51,000 ethers have been sold already. It's a lot. That's my opinion. It's a lot, but it's not out of line with the rest of the market. I mean, we had Civic coming in at over 100 million. We had Tezos coming in at, I mean, it's not uncommon, guys, that we have ICOs with valuations over $100 million. That's just what the market is going for right now. So, you know, it's a good project. I like it. The price, if you know, assuming you get a 10 or 20% discount at the ICO, it's, I would say, around where it should be relative to the rest of the market. I don't think it's out of line, but I also don't think it's a great deal either as far as investing. That's my personal opinion.
I also want to add this to it, you know, is that, you know, can you mute?
Oh, sorry.
So one thing that I want to add to this also is that, you know, most of the cryptocurrencies that's coming out right now is just a piece of white paper. And so even if they come out a little bit higher than what we would like, you know, compared to last year's ICOs, I would say that we also have to account for the fact that they already have working software.
Sure, sure.
It's not just a white paper. They actually have working software. And you want to talk about what we can, if it does what, let's say Stratus does. Stratus is at, I'm looking at CoinMarketCap right now. Stratus is at 629. Factum is at like in the low 30s. If I can find it here, yeah, Factum is $26.47 right now at Factum. So if these other infrastructure projects have gotten this far, we can also, how do you look at it as in the same bucket? Because they're all in the same bucket.
Yeah. So that's why I say I think it's priced fairly. I didn't say it's overpriced. I think it's a fair valuation, especially if we get the discount, right? If we get the 10 or 20% discount, then the valuation becomes reasonable, you know. And that's what the market is. Like, remember when I did the valuation for Particle, I thought that it was coming in a little bit high. Like, I think we were coming in at like a $12 or $13 million valuation. I don't recall the exact numbers. And I thought that that was a little bit high because, you know, Golem, a few months before that, we got in at around 10 million, right? And then many projects we got in cheaper, and Particle was coming out a little bit higher, but not too bad. Maybe 20, you know, I would have liked to pay 20, 30% less than we did, but you know, the whole market went up 10x from there. So now Particle is trading at $12, right? And on average, we paid you know, the ICO investors paid on average $1.50.
Yeah,
right? So
but keep in mind also, I would like to say this, you know, is that, and this is why everyone likes to call you the Oracle of crypto, because you did project that on the release of when we were in New York City, we were in front of the New York Stock Exchange. You did do an analysis after the ICO was done, and you saw how much money they made and everything. They were able to raise for their project. You projected that when they come out with the token, it would be trading around $5, $6, somewhere around there. And it sure hit it right on the money, because they got, when they were made available for trading sometime in July, that it did come out at that price that you had projected.
Yeah. So I did that because not you know, just by looking at where the project was versus where the market was, right? And that's how I made that projection. It was just like, okay, looking at like where they were. You know, at the time we shot the video in front of the New York Stock Exchange, and where, you know, what other projects like that or at that stage of development were going for at the time, and it was about $4, $5, $6, somewhere like that. We did the calculation. I said that, yeah, we're probably going to get a 3 or 4x out of the gate, just because you know, maybe not because of anything Particle did, but just because of the market valuation going up. And it's the same case here. You know, the market valuation is going to drive what Rivetz does. Now, the price that it's coming in at, it's, I won't say it's high or low. I think it's fair. You know, that's where I think. I think it's actually priced better than Particle was at the time of that ICO. You know, so it's a little bit. It's about a fair market value. I think it is. What they're asking for. It's a lot relative to 6 months ago or a year ago, but you know, the market has, you know, we're sitting here at 170 billion, and the top 100 projects is at least already at 40 million, right? I mean, yeah. So you got to unmute, Todd.
So we can compare this to real estate. Like the area of North Dallas I was in like at the bottom of the market crash in 2012. You know, the average house in, you know, you can get houses for like 250, 275,000 in around the North Dallas area. But then when they moved the Toyota North American headquarters from California to North Dallas, all the houses in the neighborhood went up in value. So now the average house, you have to pay like $350,000, $375,000 for a house now in North Dallas. So if you look at it and you compare it to 2012, when I bought my house, it's expensive. But because it's higher, it's $100,000 higher. But if you compare it to where the market value is at today, if you get a house for $350,000, $375,000 in North Dallas, that's average. That's the normal going price. So the entire market of North Dallas has gone up since then. So what you're saying is that the market in crypto has gone up.
That's correct. That's correct.
This is like the new norm. This is like the fair valuation.
Yeah, yeah. Like I would say a fair value last year for an ICO was coming in around 10 million. But you know, a project that has a decent team, a good white paper, a working product, or even just a prototype of a product, is going to get $100 million valuation. I mean, as an investor, I really don't want to pay that. But I mean, same thing as a home buyer. Maybe, you know, you're saying the average house in Dallas is at 350. Well, I don't, you know, if I'm buying houses, I don't want to pay 50. I'd rather pay 250, right? But that's, you know, we don't control the market, and that's just the way it is right now. So, you know, that's my take on it. I think it's a decent project. You know, last year I was investing in a lot more ICOs than I am now. For that reason, is just because a lot of these projects are so richly valued today versus, say, they were at the beginning of the year even.
All right, so I want to give the audience a chance here for the people that joined us live. If you guys have any questions just regarding Rivetz, and we'll answer it the best we can based on what we know. If we don't, we'll let you guys know. Please keep the questions pertaining to Rivetz, guys, because this video is about the analysis of Rivetz. So, he actually, while we're waiting for the questions to come in, Leon, Stephen Sprague actually spoke at the at several Bitcoin conferences in 2014. I think he was there at the Miami Bitcoin conference this year too when you were there.
Oh, okay. Was he a speaker in Miami?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't recall. I might have missed it. Maybe I missed it, but I was in Miami, but I don't recall meeting him or seeing him. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so while we're waiting for the questions to come in, you want to talk about, just to update the audience, on where you'll be in a few weeks. I won't have time to go to Europe, but you will for the day.
Oh, yeah, okay, while we're waiting for that,
yeah.
Should we go over the conferences that we have?
Yeah, the conferences that's coming up that will be.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, the first conference we are going to go to is, I believe, in Houston.
In Houston, yeah, the oil blockchain conference.
The blockchain conference on oil and gas, right? And so we're going to hit that one. That's about a 3-hour drive from here in Austin, and so
that's going to be on the 12th through the 15th.
Yeah, it's actually an energy conference, and I think one of those days, it's a 4-day conference series about oil and gas and the energy business in Houston. And we're going to go, we plan on going to, one of the days is about blockchains in oil and gas. So, I'd like to go there to learn, not only, we know a lot about blockchains, but I'd like to learn a little bit about oil and gas.
Yeah.
We live in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And so that's still coming up. But then there's also Dash invited us to come to their conference in London.
Yeah, they offered to sponsor us and pay for a flight, hotel, and travel expenses and everything, but we declined it because we wanted to be able to speak freely and not be censored. So usually when you take someone's money, usually you have to say what they want, and we chose not to. So we rather...
Yeah, it's not, look, and we don't want to say Dash put any condition. Dash didn't put any conditions in that offer. That we don't feel comfortable taking their money, because then we kind of feel like they gave us money. We don't want to say anything bad, So they did not put.
We didn't make that clear that they offered to sponsor, but they did not put any conditions. They just said, "Be yourself. You guys do on the channel. Say whatever you want." And
say whatever you want. But we just didn't feel comfortable. Taking someone's money and then saying bad things about them, right? That's just
if we had to.
Yeah, that's just not good form. Right? Even if they let you do that, it's just not good form. So we did get they did comp us some tickets to their conference. So we're looking forward to meeting the Dash guys. I did meet Ryan Taylor, and I did speak to him in person. I think he's now the CEO of Dash. Or
the marketing.
Yeah, but I think he changed. I saw on his website. I think he's might have gotten a promotion or something. But I met him in Miami, and we did speak to him in for about 30 minutes after he was the last speaker in Miami, and so I grabbed them, me and a bunch of guys, we tracked him down and got to speak to him in person after, and I was blown away. Like if you remember back in January, I said, hey guys, we got to buy Dash, like on any pullback, if this thing goes down, we got to be in there buying it. And sure enough, that was at $50 million, and now that's been a huge winner, right? They're trading at they're as high as Ethereum, right? 2.5 billion, $331 at the same price as Ethereum, and they're number 7. So that's been a huge winner, which you would have seen if you were in Miami, and you heard Ryan Taylor give that talk.
Okay.
So that's there, and then after Dash is the World Blockchain Forum.
Okay.
And so we look forward to covering that conference too. That's 2 more days, also in London.
Okay.
And we looked, we hope to see what kind of opportunities or.
Yeah. Hey, let me put this out there, okay? Because this is something that we always see at the conferences, okay? If you guys follow our channel and you guys see us at the conference, just come by and say, hey, what's up, Ty? What's up, Leon? Hey, we follow your channel. You guys doing great work. What's up? You guys don't have to be shy. Don't have to be embarrassed or anything like that. Because sometimes, people. Like some of these people you see on YouTube, when you meet them in person, they're actually not, they have a different personality. We are not. Like if you come and approach us, we're not going to go crazy or go bonkers or anything like that. Okay. Yeah. So I just want to give a heads up in case somebody runs into us at the conferences and stuff like that. Okay. So, I don't see any questions coming in for.
All right. Well, then we'll call it.
That's, I know you had to run. You said you didn't have that much time. I
gotta go. I gotta run.
So we'll wrap this up. If you guys like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you guys don't like this video, give us a thumbs down so we know not to waste time making it. If you guys want to follow what Leon and I talk about and how we invest and everything, check out make sure you subscribe to the www.cryptocurrency.market/newsletter. That's where we broadcast all our videos so that people can learn from it. And also, we forgot to mention, if you guys are interested in learning how we invest in cryptocurrencies and the process that we use, we have a cryptocurrency investing bootcamp coming up in November 9th, 10th, around that time. Just go to cryptocurrency.market/bootcamp and get more information there. Okay, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in a future video. So thanks for joining us today, Leon, and have a good day in Austin.
All right.
With the broadcast, guys.